Hello, this is Professor Leanne Simons. If you are listening to this recording right now or looking at this recording right now, that's because my good friend, fill in the blank, has just gone over the syllabus with you, and I am on my way back from the most incredible trip to Antarctica and was unable to make it to the first class. Thank you very much, Dr. fill in the blank, for doing this for me. I'd like to go through some more information with you so that we can kind of just pick up and try to stay with the syllabus when I get back. This is the textbook, Nutrition, Your Life Science. You have a couple options for the textbook. You can buy a new textbook that will include an access code. This access code is something that you'll use for your diet analysis project, something that I'll go over more when I first see you. And it is also in the syllabus, which you will be reading. So you can buy a new textbook that includes the access code. You can buy a used textbook and get the access code separately. Or you can buy whatever text you want and use the program that we have installed in Jenison 114 in each of the computers there. Again, we'll talk more about this, especially when we get to Module 3. In addition to the textbook, there are these video lectures, these recordings that have been made that you'll see on your syllabus and also on Blackboard. There are also occasional articles that I want you to read. These articles are not optional. What is optional, however, is what I call cocktail chatter. I listen to this podcast called the Slate Political Gabfest, and they always end the Gabfest with cocktail chatter, that most important piece of information that you will be sharing with your friends while you have cocktails with them. What I describe as cocktail chatter is that most important bit of information that you would like to share with your friends, but is not required for exam purposes. And actually, during the semester, instead of asking me if you have a question about materials, don't ask me, is this going to be on the exam? Ask me, is this cocktail chatter? It's a much more polite way of letting me know that you want to know whether or not this important information is required or not required. Next week, you'll need to hand in this checklist. So this is going to tell me that you have gone over the syllabus and that you understand what is required of you. And each and every one of you needs to read over the syllabus, read over this checklist, and I'll ask you to hand it in. I will be collecting it next week. One of the things that you can't do today, but we will be doing next week, are using clickers. These clicker questions will be maybe up to 10% of your grade. You'll each be assigned a specific clicker. If you've used them before, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't used them before, each of you will get one. You will be assigned a specific number, and you will pick up this clicker at the beginning of each class. And several questions will be asked per lecture on materials that you should have already read. This helps me assess what needs to be known and keep up with whether or not you're able to follow the material. This would be an example of a clicker question. What year are you? And over here on the side, there's what's called a non-response grid. So as soon as these get assigned to specific students, there will be a grid across the bottom of the screen that will have each of your names on it. And I like to call it my public wall of shame, because as you click an answer, your name disappears, so I can tell who hasn't answered the question. This is a timer. It tells you that you have 15 seconds to answer the question. Question would be, what year are you? And I guess I won't know until I get back. What have you heard about this class? This is a question I may actually ask again when I return. What have you heard? And what you'll do is click A, B, C, D, or E. We're going to spend a little more time on these particular topics. This is going to be something that will come up during the semester, where you get your information advice from, as we try to cultivate critical thinking skills. Why do you listen to the advice from these particular sources? And let's check some of that information. Let's look at some of the questions that often come up during this class. Although I guess this isn't a question, this is a true-false. True or false? You shouldn't eat after 8 p.m. or you will gain weight. The answer, my friends, is false. Eating at night is not going to make you fat. As long as you aren't eating too many calories throughout the day, as long as your intake is not greater than your expenditure, these are things that we'll discuss later on, you will not gain weight. You may develop heartburn, but you will not increase your body fat. There is no magic time to stop eating at night to help folks who want to lose weight. True or false, health foods are better for you? The answer again is false. These are natural foods. I can't really tell you that they are better for you than fruits and vegetables, or I guess we could say unnatural Cheetos. There's no real definition of health food. What happens is we wind up being unnaturally confused, and we'll talk about what some of the different labels are that are out there that help to create this confusion. Health foods can be just as high in calories, fat, and salt as other foods, and what makes them different is that they're more expensive. If you equate expense with if you equate expensive with health, perhaps the answer would then be yes. But since being more expensive really has nothing to do with being healthier, the answer is false. Other terms that are commonly used that are just as confusing are natural and organic. Organic foods do have labeling guidelines and are defined by the FDA, but something that we'll talk about as the semester goes on is that we don't really have a good understanding of how those guidelines are being used in the population. True or false, low carbohydrate diets are the best way to lose weight? Again, the answer is false. Your body needs carbohydrates in order to work correctly. We'll talk about how carbohydrates are the preferred energy source for the brain and central nervous system. You'll learn what that means. Low carbohydrates can restrict carbohydrates to a dangerous level, creating a condition called ketosis. Plus, you know what? They can get pretty boring after a while. It's important to choose carbohydrates from a variety of sources like fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, and to include at least 3 servings of whole grains in your diet each day. True or false, you need 8 glasses of water each day for good health? Again, the answer is false. Fluid needs vary from person to person. What I'm happy to say is that coffee, in addition to tea, milk, and juices, count towards your fluid needs. But drinking water is not a magic bullet for weight loss. Some people think that if they drink a glass of water before each meal, they'll eat less. It's not a one-size-fits-all. What works for one person may not work for the other. So those are some of the common myths and misinformation out there, just to give you a taste of things that we're going to be talking about. But let's introduce some of the information in Module 1. We'll review terminology. We'll look at nutrients and calories. Look at the characteristics of a sound diet, what the results of a sound diet include, talk about the difference between health and malnutrition, and some of the factors that are affecting longevity or long life. Diet refers to the kind and amount of food that you eat every day, and food is anything that nourishes the body. Nourish means to keep alive. Nutrition is the study of how food keeps us alive, and it includes ingestion or eating of food, digestion, absorption, assimilation, how that food goes from our digestive tract into our bloodstream and into our cells, and also ultimately the excretion of the indigestible portions of food. Nutrition sciences is the study of nutrition that includes the different dietary components as well as metabolism of those dietary components. Nutrients are chemicals. They're molecular substances that nourish the body or provide nourishment to cells and every multicellular component of us, the human organism. We'll talk about essential versus non-essential nutrients. And essential are the ones that the body cannot make. Therefore, we must get them in the diet. Without consuming them, without an intake, specific deficiency signs and symptoms will occur. These deficiencies, signs, and symptoms generally disappear after that nutrient is added back into the diet. Energy producing refers to calories. You may hear energy being used in different ways outside the classroom, but in our classroom, energy refers to calories, the energy that is released when nutrients are broken down or metabolized by the body. Non-energy producing nutrients do not provide calories, but may have other important functions. These could be vitamins and minerals, or they could be non-nutrients like fiber and plant chemicals or phytochemicals. We look at this as an overview of nutrients, our nutrients being water, carbohydrate, fat, proteins, vitamins, and minerals. What I want you to see is which ones have carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, and, well, minerals. Minerals are just minerals. The mineral carbon is found in carbohydrates, fats, proteins, and vitamins. And in the field of chemistry, anything that contains carbon is said to be organic. So you may find that throughout the semester I will correct you when you talk about something being organic. For our purposes, unless indicated otherwise, organic means contains carbon. These 6 categories of nutrients can be further divided into 2 categories. Energy-producing nutrients, carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. These are the nutrients that provide calories. And non-caloric essential nutrients, vitamins and minerals, and water. A kilocalorie, or for our purposes, we will refer to it as the calorie, is a unit used to measure energy. While I'm not asking you to remember this, this is cocktail chatter. A kilocalorie is the amount of heat required to raise 1 kilogram of water 1 degree Celsius. Energy is a measure of heat. Our energy-producing nutrients are carbohydrates, proteins, fat, and alcohol. Carbohydrates, proteins, and fats are the essential nutrients. Alcohol, while it does produce energy, I'm afraid I have to tell you it is not considered essential. It is not required for the growth, repair, or maintenance of tissues. And when it is not in our body, we do not develop deficiency symptoms. Carbohydrates provide 4 calories per gram, proteins 4 calories per gram, fat 9 calories, and alcohol provides 7 calories per gram. Fiber we'll talk about when we talk more about carbohydrates. It is considered a carbohydrate, but it is a non-caloric carbohydrate, and we'll talk more about that. How do we apply calories, or this definition, to food? We'll talk about something called a bomb calorimeter. It's a machine in which food is placed into this small chamber. As the heat is raised and the water gets hotter and hotter, eventually the food is broken down into, well, nothingness. And the change in temperature is the number of calories that are being released by, in this case, looks like a green pepper. The ultimate fuel that's used in the body is a chemical called ATP, or adenosine triphosphate. We capture this chemical energy between the carbon-to-carbon bonds in carbohydrates, fats, and protein, and this is what's used to form ATP. Everything that we talk about in this topic and in actually this first module is groundwork or introductory material for what we'll be doing the rest of the semester. So if you don't understand any of this now, that's perfectly understandable, and you must ask me questions, and I must answer them. Your book talks about the different nicknames that are associated with the energy-producing nutrients. Carbohydrates are referred to as high-performance fuel. We'll talk about this in Module 4 when we talk about fitness. Carbs are fast and best at making ATP, the energy currency of the cell, the molecule that drives muscles to contract. Fats are the low-level fuel. Fats are slow to produce ATP. Fats are used during low to moderate intensity activity. And again, we'll be discussing this in more detail in Module 4. Proteins are building blocks for growth and repair of tissues. Only under intense stress does protein provide ATP for muscle contraction. Loads of toxic waste is produced when proteins are overconsumed. I don't use the word toxic very often in this class, as you will find out. But what happens is when we're using protein for energy, excess nitrogen is released into the body, and it can form ammonia. It can put a stress on the kidneys. So we don't want to have to rely on protein for energy. What does non-caloric mean? It means that this nutrient is unable to generate ATP. It does not have any caloric value. Some non-caloric nutrients are essential for the body. We'll look at specific micronutrients, vitamins and minerals that are considered essential and non-caloric. The goal of eating is to fuel and nourish the body optimally, to keep us healthy and in good working condition. Food keeps us alive by providing calories or energy as well as nutrients. The relationship between calories and nutrients is referred to as nutrient density, the amount of nutrients provided relative to the number of calories. Foods with high nutrient density are nutritious, are said to be nutritious. So if we look at a large potato versus a small order of fast food fries, both containing 210 calories, look at this for a second, and which one can you tell me is more nutrient dense? I'm hoping you're going to tell me it's the large potato. I would never tell you not to have a small order of fries, but if we're talking about wasting calories or the importance of nutrient density, I would say that you should have the potato over the fries. We're looking at a cup of plain yogurt versus half a cup of vanilla ice cream, both at 130 calories. Which one's the more nutrient dense? Again, I'm hoping you're choosing the yogurt. That doesn't mean that you should never have ice cream, although for the life of me, I don't know who can stop at a half a cup. But if we're looking at nutrients per calorie, your yogurt is the winner. Just to kind of repeat, nutrient density, given the same amount of calories, French fries and ice cream provide less nutritional value. So they are less nutrient dense. Which one of the following is the most nutrient dense per half cup serving? And this is important to look at the serving size. We'll talk more about serving sizes in Module 2. Grapes are the most nutrient dense. Characteristics of a sound diet include calorie control, the appropriate amount of calories eaten to maintain a healthy body weight, adequacy, that you're getting all the essential nutrients, fiber, and calories in the diet, that you are balancing the food types, that the food types complement one another in your diet. No one nutrient or food is being consumed to the exclusion of others. Whereas bananas may be your most favorite fruit in the world, and they do provide an excellent source of potassium and fluids and calories, if you only eat bananas, you are going to miss out on the nutrients found in oranges, grapes, mangoes, variety of foods out there. Moderation. You want to make sure that your diet doesn't consume an excess of unwanted substances. And we can talk about what those unwanted substances are. And of course, variety. The results of a sound diet: a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. I should say that's a goal. I can't promise you if you eat well that you will have a good social life, but you will certainly have an improved physical, mental, and social well-being. Good health is not just the absence of illness, whereas the results of a poor diet are malnutrition, impairment of health resulting from deficiency, toxicity, or imbalance of nutrient intake or utilization of nutrients. So this includes overnutrition as well as undernutrition. Factors that affect longevity include diet, because poor diets can promote degenerative diseases or degenerative conditions such as cancer, heart disease, osteoporosis, diabetes, and obesity. These are all conditions that we'll be talking about. And the dietary factors involved in these conditions include fat, sugar, fiber, sodium, alcohol, and calcium. The leading causes of death, the three main causes, heart disease, cancer, and stroke, have a dietary component. I will talk to you more about the difference between acute and chronic illness when I see you. Exercise affects longevity. Exercise or physical activity promotes health by positively influencing our weight or body composition, our percent body fat or muscle mass. It positively affects metabolism, bone density, cognitive function, blood pressure, cholesterol, and our cardiovascular or heart and blood system. In this particular section, your book recommends striving for 60 minutes each day. Other factors that affect longevity: smoking or tobacco use is a leading contributor of death in the United States. Poor sleep habits, alcohol, drug use, unsafe sex, this can certainly affect your longevity. Being at the wrong place at the wrong time can kill you. And genetics. Unfortunately, we can't pick our parents, but what we can do is try to modify the changeable risk factors. And we'll discuss all of this. So to summarize, diet is a collection of food consumed by an individual in a 24-hour period. Food nourishes the body. It contains nutrients that can be essential, non-essential, caloric, or non-caloric. Nutrition is the study of how food nourishes and affects the body function throughout the day and health over several years, over a lifetime. And the goal of eating should be to fuel and nourish the body optimally. It's important to consume a healthy diet in order to promote health and prevent chronic disease. There are many factors that affect food choices. For our next class, I will have you sign up for current events, write down 2 to 3 questions that you'd like to have answered in this course. See you.